In this video, I want to show you how to use your dirt bike front brake. What's up, Rad family? I'm Dakota Freeman and welcome to the Rad Adventure Dude channel. It's going to be so important that when we want to learn how to stop the bike faster, that we learn how to master our dirt bike front brake. The dirt bike front brake is going to be the most important brake when it comes to stopping our dirt bike. Not necessarily the first brake that we want to learn how to use, as we should focus more on the rear brake whenever we're learning. But once you've mastered your rear brake and you're ready to learn how to stop the dirt bike better, let's learn how to use our dirt bike front brake. The dirt bike front brake is going to be on the handlebars by our throttle. The lever by your throttle is what you're going to pull in to engage your front brake. This front brake, I just want to tell you at the very beginning of this video, is actually going to be very aggressive. So make sure you always use your front brake when you're going in a straight line. And if you have your wheel turned at all, do not use your front brake. Because if you have your wheel turned and you grab the front brake, it's actually going to lock the wheel up and that's going to put you on the ground. So to avoid that, make sure you use your front brake when you're going in a straight line. As we want to get better with using our dirt bike front brake, we need to practice how to use our front brake as we're going on the bike. So start going and use your front brake gently and kind of feather it until you feel the front brake engage. Once you feel the dirt bike's front brake engage, then it's a good time to go ahead and use the front brake a little bit more, and you'll actually feel it start to engage even more and stop the bike faster. As you use your dirt bike front brake, it's going to want to shift your weight forward. So use your upper body to compensate for this and actually kind of push your weight back a little bit on the bike as you're using your front brake. The reason we want to do this is as you get more and more aggressive with using your front brake, it's naturally going to want to pick up the back wheel and do a stoppie. So we want to avoid that when we're on the tracks and trails, and the best way to do that is to shift your weight back on the dirt bike. We don't have to get too far back, but as long as you get your butt and your back kind of pointed back a little bit on the dirt bike, it's going to shift your weight far enough back to where you're not going to have to worry about this whenever you're stopping using your front brake. So especially at the beginning, be cautious when we're using our front brake, as it's going to be something that we need to learn over time and to get comfortable with. We don't want to grab too much front brake and it put us on the ground, especially at the beginning when we're learning how to ride. And even once we get better, we need to be cautious of how we use our front brake and really just make sure that we get comfortable with this more and more. Once you really want to stop the dirt bike in the fastest way possible, you're going to have to master using your front brake. So continually work on this over time until you know exactly at the point that your front brakes engage and how far you can pull the brake lever in before it really starts to lock up that front wheel. We never want to lock up our front wheel by grabbing too much front brake, because it's going to cause a lot of pressure through the handlebars. We want to easily use our front brake to stop the bike, but we don't want to pull in too much of the front brake lever to where it locks up the wheels. And this is something that you're going to develop a good sense of over time, but just make sure when you are using your front brake like this that you have a good strong hold over your upper body on the handlebars. Because as much front brake as you add, you're going to feel the force of it through the handlebars. So just be prepared for that, and this is what's really going to make you faster at stopping the dirt bike. And it's going to make you better at using your front brake the more you get comfortable with using your front brakes and knowing what to do with your body as you continually put on the front brakes. If you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, make sure you hit that and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any of my future dirt bike riding tips. So there's a couple different things we can do with our front brake when we're riding. Our front brake is actually the most important brake that we have on our dirt bike to stop the bike the fastest. And to use our brakes in the best way possible, we're going to have to multitask and combine using our front brake with using our rear brake. Once you get comfortable using both brakes combined, you can even work in your gear shifter to be able to shift down in the gears as you're using your front brake and as you're using your back brake. Now engaging the engine brake to have 3 different ways to stop the bike as fast as possible. This is really how pro riders can come into corners with so much speed and then be able to shift down, lock on their brakes, knowing that there's a ton of force coming through your handlebars and that you have to really be strong with your upper body to kind of fight it and keep the wheel pointed straight. Then they can actually release the brakes and get back on the throttle, and since they've shifted down coming into the corners, this is going to give them the proper acceleration coming out of the corners. So continually work on that and really develop this to be instilled into your riding. You don't want to have to think about it every time you want to use your dirt bike's front brake or your rear brake and gear shifter combined with it. You want to be able to use your front brake as you're coming into a corner or trying to slow the bike down, and naturally be able to use the rear brake to help assist your front brake slow the bike down as well. You're going to want to get comfortable with being able to shift your weight back as you're using your front brake, but still having your head over the handlebars to keep good control over your handlebars and not let it do anything crazy. You really want to focus when we're using our front brake to keep the front wheel pointed where we're going, and never use it whenever your wheel is turned. So as long as you understand those concepts about your dirt bike front brake, the rest is going to be really easy. All you have to do is simply pull the lever in until it engages, and that's going to be your resting place with your front brake. If you pull it in too far, it's going to lock up the wheel, and that's not what we're going for, as we really just want to use the brakes to slowly bring the bike to a stop. So work on using your dirt bike's front brake in this kind of way, and work on using your upper body to have a good control over the handlebars. Once you're doing that, you can then use your weight to shift forward and back and kind of compensate for your body weight wanting to get thrown forward as you engage these front brakes. What do we want to do whenever we really want to lock on the front brakes and almost do a stoppie? Well, whenever we're learning how to use our front brake in this kind of aggressive way, we really need to think about what kind of soil is under us as well. Because when we lock up the front wheel, it may want to slide, or depending on the type of soil we're on, it may want to grab, and this will really get you to do a stoppie very quickly. So knowing if you're on a gravelly surface, especially when learning, you do not want to use your front brake. If you're on gravel, it's going to be very easy for the front wheel to get kind of washed around, and that is how you're going to lock the wheel up when you're on gravel. If you're on like a clay soil that has a lot of traction, you really want to pick your back end up on your dirt bike. So if you're on a clay-like soil, you really want to make sure you get your weight farther back on the bike to where it doesn't want to lift up the back end whenever you're engaging your front brakes. And if you're on like a sandy soil, it's going to be really hard to lock up your front brakes in the way of picking up your back wheel, because as a sandy soil just lets your wheels go freely, and it doesn't have much traction to actually want to stop the wheel and pick you up. If you're on a super sandy soil, you can even just let off the throttle, and naturally the bike's going to want to slow down just because it's in such a thick sandy soil. So knowing what kind of soil you're on is also going to really depend on how much you want to use your front brakes, and it's going to be very important that you know what kind of soil you're riding on before you start locking on those front brakes. I'm so proud of you for getting to this point in your dirt bike riding and really developing to become the best rider possible. I can't wait to keep helping you get better on your dirt bike and improving your dirt bike riding skills. If you're still looking for more dirt bike riding tips, I'm always here. I've made a full dirt bike riding course over on my website that's going to walk you through being a complete beginner and take you to an advanced rider mastering the tracks and trails. If this video helped you, make sure you like this video and drop some comments down below and ask me any other questions that you have. I'm always here to help. Make sure you click the subscribe button that's right here and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any of my future dirt bike riding tips. After that, you can watch my next video right here. So go ahead and click on it, stay rad, and I'll see you over there.